Nyla here is a dog that might have some separation anxiety. Now, we did a little testing of it earlier. The guardian wants to make sure that she's recreating the individual steps of leaving without actually going through leaving. And try to break your tendencies whenever possible. Sometimes sit here and put your shoes on, sometimes sit there, sometimes do it in your office. So that way it looks different each time. Also, if you pick up, there's certain sounds. This sound is usually associated with going out for a walk. So if I do this at times where we're not going out for a walk and she hears that sound, that desensitizes her for it. In this video, I'm going to teach you how you can teach your dog to stay, so the guardian can actually help Nyla practice staying instead of following her to the bathroom or the bedroom or the backyard or whatever it is. Now, I teach the stay in 3 Ds. First for duration, then for distance, then for distractions. Most people try to do them all at once. Whenever you're training your dog, you want to make it as easy as possible at first and then gradually make it more and more challenging until you work your way back to the real world situation so the dog knows how to perform. Now, the book says you can put the dog in a sit or a down, and if they get up or down, it's okay. My preference, and I work professionally, is if I tell the dog to stay in a LAY, I want it to stay in an LNY, not go up to a sit. But theoretically, if they stay in the area and they move up or down, it's okay. All right, so I have a bunch of treats in my left hand. I'm going to use my right hand as my command hand, and I'm going to give a hand signal as well. Now, I never, ever use the word okay as a release word because it's a top 50 most commonly used word in the English language. I know dogs have actually gotten accents because they're in a conversation. Somebody says okay, and the dog jumps forward. So I say release, break, freedom, and parole. I like using fun command words. Does the guardian have any preference as to what word we use?
I like parole.
All right, perfect. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my hand signals for my right hand, and I'm going to treat for my left hand. I'm going to take this out of the purview. And at first, we're going to do just duration. So I'm going to say, stay, halfway distance between her and me, and I count to 3. Stay. Remember, every time you give your dog a treat, they should hear the command word right after the treat goes in their mouth. That was 3 seconds. So I go half distance between me and her, stay. And then I put my hand back on my chest, and I count to 6 in my head. Stay. All right, we go to 9. Stay. Stay. Now, I would probably practice this a lot more, but this is not the most exciting footage. I think you understand it for this point. So when I'm done practicing, I want to help the dog practice releasing. When a dog's going to stay, there's a stay command, there's a wait or a hold command. Stay means you stay until you hear one specific command and nothing else. Hold means wait until the next command. So, we're going to use the word parole. So now we're done staying. I'm going to go like this. Parole. So when she licks it up off the ground, I'm going to say the word. So we're going to practice 8 times, 12 times, 15, whatever we want to do. And then at the very end, we throw that last treat so she has to get up and walk away. Make sure she doesn't just lean over and lick it up. She should have to get up and move away and say the word parole. Now, eventually, I have 4 dogs. Being able to put them in a stay and release 1 dog at a time is pretty awesome. So now you have a fun command word. So this is first for duration. Now, you want to work your way up to 5 minutes with just this. This is, again, the easiest capacity. And for dogs, sometimes it's hard. They start pawing at you or rolling over, doing other things. They're like, why aren't you giving me the treat? You want me to just sit here? Yeah, but that's hard for them to understand, not doing anything. So you help them practice this. And for generally in dog training, you want to keep it for less than 1 or 2 minutes. In this one, we're going to go up to 5 minutes. Now, I'm going to go whatever interval is the dog is successful at. So maybe that time I went by 3s, next time I'm going to go by 4s or 5s, and you can vary it up based on your dog's level of intelligence. But you want to work your way up to 5 minutes, and it should take you about 2 weeks, depending on how much you practice. There's 2 guardians in this house. I'd like them to both practice this with her like 3 to 5 times a day each, and these are very short at first. Eventually we'll work our way up to 5 minutes. Now, once I get to the point where the dog can stay for 5 minutes with me right here in the easiest capacity possible, then I'm going to start incorporating distance. So I'm going to get up, I'm going to put her into a sit. Sit. So now when I actually do distance, sit, I say stay, pull my hand back, and I take 1 step back, and I count to 2, because I double the number of steps, and I come back and say stay. Stay. 1, 2, stay. Parole. So what I want to do is I'm just going to move very progressively further and further away from the dog. Now, eventually we're going to get to the point where we're far enough away where we can start incorporating loss of sight. So let's say that there's a wall like right here and the dog's right there. So I back up this way and I go around the wall so now the dog can't see me. When I first do that, make sure that you can get to the point where she'll stay, and you've had at least 5 successful practices in a row where she can stay where you're at least 20 feet away. Then the next step is to move just right outside of her line of sight. And when I do it, I literally step out of sight for 1 second and I come back and walk back, stay. And then I walk and I repeat that process. And this time I might do 2 seconds out of sight. But when you go out of sight, that's a big jump. And a lot of dogs will want to come and find you. That's why we have to go very, very slow. So just when she's thinking, maybe I should go find her, oh, she's coming back. And the next time, oh, find her? Oh, no, she came back again. But we're gradually elongating it. So we want to do this until the dog can stay in place with you out of sight for up to 5 minutes. And the next stage is to do it amongst distractions. This is what I was talking about with the open door. Now, you have to be careful about this because we're in Venice. Sometimes there's some crazy dogs here. But what we would do is open the door and practice the stay right here. With the door open, with you walking out the door and her staying. She can see you now. And again, it's just going to be at first 1 step out the door, come back, 2 steps out the door, eventually down the steps, all the way to the street, and eventually off to the corner. And again, you're going to repeat what we did inside, going out of sight, but now we're doing outside with the door open. Now the door open is a big indicator that she's coming back to the dog. Again, we want to take away pressure and help the dog practice this. And eventually you want to elongate it more and more. Now you might want to have somebody else that can be nearby to help, but we would like to eventually work our way up to the point where there is nobody in the house. Now eventually, when we actually start leaving the house, we're not going to put the dog into a stay and then leave the house because that's going to train the dog's eventually going to auto-release, and we don't want the dog to do that. What we want a dog for the stay, the reason I want the guardian to do this is I want the guardian to be able to put her in a stay and go use the bathroom or change clothes or get a drink of water or whatever, and eventually go down to, what is the vegan place called again? I can't remember the name.
Earth Cafe?
Gratitude.
Oh, Cafe Gratitude.
Cafe Gratitude. So maybe go to Gratitude and pick up some food and come back, or just grab something or whatever. Go to your favorite pot dispensary on Rose. But the idea is we want to leave the house for very, very short periods of time at first, and each time progressively longer. Now for this, I would recommend you create a chart and just do it on your phone or whatever is convenient for you, and then chart your progress. Now, if I go to the point where I go out of the dog's sight, and let's say I'm going by 10-second intervals, and I go to 15s, and at 14 seconds she gets up and starts auto-releasing, then go back and practice it. Instead of going from 10 to 15, go to 10 to 13. Always back up a step and help the dog practice it over and over again. Now, like I said, for the stay for 5 minutes, it should take you about 2 weeks to get there. You might be able to move faster, but we'd like to make sure we do it by 2 weeks. Then the third week, we'd like to incorporate distance. Now we can start moving a little bit faster, not a ton, but again, go at her pace. If she fails, then back up and go at her pace. And eventually we want to get to the point where then we're doing the distractions basically within about 4 weeks from now. And now she has practiced being alone, and I'd like you to get to the point where you, do you guys do much work in the office? Mm-hmm. Where you put her in a stay here, and then you go out of her line of sight and you do like half an hour's worth of work in there. Now, the general rule of thumb for dogs is once they can do something for 2 hours, they can push beyond that limit without any problem. Most dogs, you don't have to go all the way to 2 hours. I don't think we will for her because she doesn't seem to have a super duper hard case of it. But that might be something we might want to look into. Now, other things we can do to put her in a position to succeed. Before we actually start leaving, make sure that we exercise her first. I talk about this off camera, so maybe take her outside and play a game of fetch and count and figure out what her ideal game of fetch is, maybe 25 times, whatever it is. But you should be able to do 20 fetches in about 7 minutes. And then come in, let her breathe, and when she stops panting, then grab your stuff and leave. And now, I don't see one here, but doesn't mean that they can't have them. They're very crafty. I have a security camera in my home, so I can actually watch my dogs. And that is invaluable when you're practicing this. So you can actually go and use the Wi-Fi down at Cafe Bravo or whatever it is, and watch your dog at home and see how she's doing. But ideally, when we start leaving the last little bit, so we want to practice the stay, like I've done in this video, till we can achieve all those things by the end of 4 weeks. Then what we want to do is start, when we leave the house, grab all your stuff, leave the house, walk down the steps. Now what she does, I don't know if you know this, but when you leave, she whimpers here for a minute, and then she goes in there and she jumps on the bed and looks out the window.
Yeah.
So I would close those blinds when you're leaving, so she if she goes there, she can't see you, to help her break that habit. But the idea is, and you might also have to put some here so she can't see out here. But the idea is you go out and you leave and you come right back and put all your stuff down and sit down and watch more TV. So every time there's a commercial on TV or there's a break, try to practice these at times when you're not actually going to be leaving for a long period of time and work her up to staying at home for longer periods of time. If you're actually going downtown LA or something like that and there's a problem, now you got to fight. It's hard to get back. But there's a lot of cool stuff on Rose now. So if you just go to eat lunch over there, if there's a problem, you can watch her on your phone. If there's a problem, you can get back before there's a real problem. But the idea is to set her up for success by exercising her first, helping her practice for progressively longer periods of time, also first practicing being alone, and then gradually longer periods of time. And then it's just like no big deal. The Guardian always does, and I'm going to just sum this up because the Guardian does not do this, but I have a lot of people watch these videos. She does not make a big deal when she leaves. She doesn't say goodbye. She doesn't kiss her and make a big. If you make a big production out of it, you're going to create more drama, and the dog's going to be more worked up about it. Also, when you come home, the Guardian says she's very excited when they come home. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing. So if we come home and she's jumping up and we pet her, we're saying, I like you so much for petting me, for jumping up on me, I'm going to reward you for that. So when you come home, ignore her completely. Don't pet her, don't look at her, don't talk to her. Just do your thing. And as soon as she settles down, then you can reach for her, and as she starts wiggling, pull back. Excited is not happy. And so we want her to understand the only way the human's going to interact with me when I'm calm and balanced. Insecure, or dogs with separation anxiety are usually insecure dogs, and they get very emotional about a lot of things. So we can help her practice not being overexcited in other situations when it's not related to the separation anxiety, which will be a skill set that will help her recover from that. All right, well, this is Nyla. As you can tell, she's a hyper spastic dog, and we'll do one more parole. Parole. Now, she wasn't going to stay there, but I just wanted a funny way to end the video. This is Nyla, and these are some tips and tricks you can use to teach your dog to stay to help them if they have a case of separation anxiety.